All right, guys, had a long day. We're long morning, a quick morning. We actually went overtime, but the highlight today, I'm gonna give you a couple. I'm gonna I'm gonna give you guys a couple. Give me 1 second. All right, sorry about that, guys. So we early in the morning, Tom and I and some other people had this thought: 2,000, 1,000, 1,000 down days in the Dow. We got to get a bounce. Now, maybe it doesn't bounce the whole day, and maybe it doesn't one of those 1,000 plus days or a 500 plus day in the Dow, but something. We're leaning that way. Well, the first move up was right here after the 8:30 open. I don't just buy it here necessarily. And if I do, I look for a quick winner, but I didn't. I'm looking for this sideways to do two things. I'm not looking for this, but I'm watching this as it happens. It dips down, but it's not that much of the, doesn't chew this move lower, doesn't chew too much into this rally from there to there. So once it starts coming, and I don't buy it down there either. It's trying to be too perfect. But once it comes back through here, you anticipate, and again, you're not anticipating all of this rally. You're just trying to get a little bit of a head start on direction. This is important. Now, right before the open, I don't know that that's important because it hasn't happened yet. The middle of that's important. And what I had said in the room live, I said, through this middle yellow line in here, you got them. If you're getting long using a qualifier to get long looking before there or after there, but you had them. It was close to the open. Things were moving. And this was like a head fake. You guys that listen to many of my videos, this was a head fake. Let me draw it better. This was a consolidation box, a head fake lower. No, we're not. No, we're not. And then through the middle, up, and away. So it shook out longs on this move lower. I think even said that. There are less longs here than there were here. Remember this equation: less longs equals less sellers above. If there's less sellers above, price has an easier chance to do what? Go up. I don't care if it's the price of any product. If there's less sellers, it's easier to have price go up. If there's a bunch of people looking to buy one house in one neighborhood, price is going up. Less sellers equal higher chances to clear the way to the upside. Because you're not going to predict, you don't have to predict this. You go crazy. You're not going to be able to predict that. You're trying to predict from here to here in order to get from there to there. And then next thing you know, you can hold on to it to there. You progress. You try to get a head start. So if that the bias of, I think we could have a rally and a bounce because of the two beaten down days. I'm going to say it's rally all day, but in the first half hour, I'm just going to come in and buy it. I want to see something, and that's what we got. Now, the next one that we talked about, and this is important because you guys, and this is why I stayed later in the room, is because you look at this beating that the market took, and you can forget, not all these green lines we use, some, but not all. And there's more than there should be because I keep adjusting these things. But here's what's important. The market takes a beating from 78 when it looks strong, like it could go up, just takes an absolute beating and goes to 34, which is yesterday's close. It goes through 40 half, I think, or 42, which was today's open. In the span of what? 30 minutes? 30 minutes. All right. Well, guess what happens right in here? Guess what happens? I don't know when this came out. I don't think this news came out up there or even in here. It might have came out right there. We get it because we are watching real-time news source. We get it pretty close to real time, but people on the inside might get it here, and that helped push it lower. I don't think the smart money got it up here. I think the market just got weak up there. But the highlight I'm trying to give you guys is, if you're not privy to what's driving the market and then news that's going to move the market, then you're not a trader. You're certainly not professional. Driver is something that's making the market, kicking the market up. It's kicking the market down based on what goes on inside of it, based on the comments. You can anticipate these comments, but you always should be able to diligently react to know what's bullish or bearish. And right now, unless you live under a rock, this coronavirus is moving us all around, mostly to the downside. We're not on the other side of this epidemic. And I draw a mountain. This dashed line is pandemic. Right now, we're on an epidemic. Are the cases going to diminish and the deaths going to diminish? Then we're peaking and we could go down, and that's when the markets will exhale. We're not there yet. And right now, the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, official opens their mouth and says at around 11 o'clock Central Time, right here, take a look at it. FDA official warns coronavirus is on the cusp of a pandemic, and virus vaccines may only arrive after the initial outbreak. Well, gee, thanks. That posted at 11:01, but it squawked out to us a few minutes even before that. So that's right in here. And what I told guys is, we're getting this a little late. We could be getting this a little late. The market just broke from here, so there's a chance of rubber band. So we don't want to screw around too much and getting short. And you got to be careful because we don't want it to do that. And so what happened was, it shook some of us out, me, short, shook out, got back in. And the get back in was I was even happier that I got shook out and got back in, because I knew by getting shook out, so did a lot of other shorts. And if there's less shorts in the market, it's easier to go down. Remember this equation: less shorts equal less buyers. Less buyers mean in the price of anything, it's an easier path to the downside. So this little cute jump and then push lower, man, that's a short shake out. Why were we short, trying to get short, looking to get short, whatever? Because it broke a lot? No. Because the FDA official came out and used the P word. And if I could just draw to help people understand this coronavirus, in any health scare, you get cases and deaths, and then all of a sudden you look for it to flat out and then go down. So you get the number of cases, and then maybe you have another line, and it's the number of deaths. This is just from my years of reading chart. And then all of a sudden, the number of deaths go down, number of cases go down. There's a bigger spread between the number of cases and the number of deaths, but they flatten out and then they go down. Then you're on the other side here, and you could say it peaked in there, and then they got a date that it peaked. However, if you start getting a pullback and a retracement, I mean, what's they get? It was going to pull back and a re-rally. All of a sudden, at some point in this dotted line, you've reached a pandemic. I think if it starts to get a lot of cases in the United States is when you could start using that word. And then they have to start closing schools down. I think we're far away from that. And I think the media sensationalizes everything, including this. And then when they're right, they'll be able to say, see, we warned you. But I just remember two things. The number of cases is that line. The number of deaths is that line. To me, they want to see the spread widen, so the percentage of people dying who get it go lower. Because people getting this disease but not dying, it's just like the regular flu. The flu has a percentage chance of people who get it die every season. It's just not 3%. And that's what this coronavirus has been. So if they can get the 3% number down, and then the cases go down, then the deaths will go down, and then the quarantine could be lifted. The problem is, I don't mean to take this much time, the problem is we're dealing with a couple countries that aren't that honest. Sorry, they're just not. Don't let it bother you if you're Chinese or Iranian, because I'm not disparaging you as an individual, but the countries lie about how many cases, where it came from, how many are dead, what's the correlation. Iran has no exposure to 100 people that are dead, or some sort of jump in a number and nobody was there. What was that connection? That happened over the weekend, which made the markets even weaker. Same thing with Italy. They go from 0 to 100. It's like, okay, well, you guys weren't doing anything, weren't restricting travel, or you're just lying about it. At least a couple of weeks ago, the U.S. said no more flights from China. And if you want to go to China, you ain't coming back. And they're going to make sure there's no loopholes into that. There should be no loopholes into that. I don't know how this flight got, but no flights come in, no flights go out. Too bad. But you got to get on the other side of that health scare. Then it's not over, by the way. Then it's not over. Because then that just means the hurricane passed. Now we got to look to see what the economic carnage might have been of the number 2 economy being shut down for 6 weeks. Might not be as bad as people think, and we could just repair ourselves higher as far as stocks go. Could be worse than people think. There could be some exposures to some bigger companies like Apple and Amazon than anybody thought. So to go right back up to our old highs just because coronavirus has been cured, let's say, cured in a different sense than actually curing it. But just because we get on the other side of the health scare doesn't mean we're on the other side of the economic scare of what kind of damage that this quarantine and this virus caused to the global economy. Because China, when Ebola happened, there isn't any African countries that I think are in the top 10 or 20 economies. China's number 2, and China has all kinds of supply chain exposure to multinational companies. So it ripples quicker than Ebola, which ground zero was mostly in some African countries. Ground zero being in China, and the fact that they can't tell the truth has made a bad situation worse, and a bad situation worse faster. And so it's going to be tough to bounce from something that could have been no worse than SARS or MERS or whatever those other coronaviruses were that we got past or we got through. Good luck trading the rest of the day. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Notify yourself. Then come to the Edge Trading Group and join this analysis as it's happening.